let's hope the members didn't hear that bit of conversation. Hello, UK Crime Book Club. I am absolutely thrilled. I've got the gorgeous Sheila Bugler, and I'm so excited. It's always so fun when you get to interview one of your favourite authors. So go ahead, introduce yourself properly, Sheila. Show off your books.
Hi, UK Crime Book Club. I'm Sheila Bugler. I'm an Irish crime writer. I live in Eastbourne on the south coast of England. It's my kind of adopted home, and I've written 2 series of crime novels. The first one is a crime series featuring Ellen Kelly, based in southeast London. But my second series, which I'm here to talk about this evening, is a series featuring a journalist called Dee Doran. And mainly tonight, I'm going to be talking about my new Dee Doran book, which comes out next Thursday, the 28th of January, and it's called Before You Were Gone. Thank you.
Yes. Best bit of my job is getting little sneaky peeks at people's books beforehand. I love it. And show us the cover again.
Thank you. Cover. It's really funny, these covers, because I'm a writer who just puts my trust completely in the publisher. I don't really get involved in the cover design. You know, I just think you guys know what you're doing. So that's the cover. And as you'll see, I'll show you some of the others, actually. You'll have to bear with me. They all have a very similar theme. So this is the cover for the first book, I Could Be You. And then this is the cover for the second book, When the Dead Speak. So they do all look quite similar, which I think kind of works in crime fiction, having a similar theme. Yeah, but I suppose there is a danger that people will not be sure which book they're reading, maybe. I don't know.
Oh no, they're still distinctive.
Yeah, so anyway, so it's coming out next Thursday, and I'm really excited because so far the feedback on this one has been really good, actually. So I kind of keeping my fingers crossed that people will like it. Thank you.
Oh God, I love it. I love it when I can kind of come on and I know I'm good. I can see it. I get teased relentlessly, mercilessly by the other.
Oh God, I'm a complete gusher, Sam. I'm a complete gusher as well. I love gushers, so you're in good company with me. Gush away.
So we've already got a few questions coming in. So they've started off, and it just says Facebook user. So I will glance at my phone and figure out who that's from. If you can leave names with questions, please, that would be great. Oh, it's Jason Kelly. Hi, Jay. So do your books need to be read in order? So you've talked about Dee Doran. So talk us through them.
Okay, so for both my series, I would say they don't need to be read in order. And certainly feedback on this one has been that it can be read as a standalone. But obviously, if you read them in order, then you get the kind of character arc and the like most crime series, I've got a main protagonist. So in this one, it's Dee Doran. So if you read them in order, I guess you get a sense of sort of Dee's story and you understand her backstory when you read the later books. But they don't have to be read in order. Absolutely not. And actually, I don't know about you, Sam, but almost every good crime series that I've discovered, I've just kind of discovered it by reading and picking up a book in the middle of the series and discovering the writer that way. And then going back and reading sort of other books in the series. So I don't think it's compulsory in any way, actually, no.
There's a couple, and I won't say who they are, but there's a couple of authors that I think I'm glad I didn't read them out of order. In fact, I will say who one of them is. It's Mark Billingham. So you might get just little bits that give away, you know, previous happenings.
Okay.
Just little things. So I do think with some, but it wouldn't actually spoil the series though if you just picked it up in the middle and then read. It'd still be fine, but I still think it's nicer to, you know, read them in order and kind of find out.
Yeah, no, I think if you can, it is, you know. So, but Ian Rankin books, for example, I definitely haven't read any of those in order in mid-series and still get so much pleasure out of the books. But, you know, generally, I think if you can, it's much nicer to read them from the beginning. Yeah, absolutely.
We have got so many questions. I can just see the screen scrolling at the side of me. So thank you, Jay. He's also asked what authors have been.
I think, Jason, that probably most writers would say every author we've ever read. So I think there's a kind of it's a journey you take as a writer. So the starting off point is that you as a reader, you start off as a reader and you kind of discover your love of reading and you discover your love of writing through the books you read. So from early on, I would say a really big influence in my sort of very early youth was Enid Blyton. I read all of her books and then moved on to all of the Nancy Drew and was it the Hardy Boys? Yeah, all the Hardy Boys mysteries. And then during my kind of teenage years, I read, so apart from reading, which was huge when I was a teenager, all the Flowers in the Attic series. I did read a lot of kind of quite highbrow literary fiction. So all of that stuff influenced, I guess, how I wrote when I started writing. But what I find now is that every writer I read, whether it's a book I like or it's a book I don't write, they all influence me. So I kind of find it quite interesting now to read a book that doesn't really grab me and to sort of try to understand what it is about the book that doesn't grab me and use that knowledge and information to sort of inform how I write. And I definitely think becoming a writer has changed how I read a lot of books. I do tend to sort of analyze a little bit more, and especially with a book that's either really good or hasn't grabbed me at all, trying to work out what is it that makes it really good. And hopefully with the good ones, trying to sort of feed that into how I write as well.
Yeah.
You're nodding away there, Sam. Do you feel the same?
I'm just looking. Yeah, and I've completely lost my train of thought now. I was just looking at the questions as well, but we're not getting names from people and my phone's just frozen.
I can see some questions.
Oh, yeah, Kaz says hi. She says no fab.
I think I probably just didn't get time to put one on, that's all. As you can see, the hair definitely doesn't need a headscarf.
I have
your hair does look lovely. You're looking very nice. Let's have it show off the lovely scarf you're wearing around your neck.
Ah, this is from.
It's lovely. Is that? Because I don't think I've seen that before. Have I?
There we go. It's
got. That's very nice.
Probably. I do wear it quite a lot. One of my teacher friends bought it for me a few years ago. I used to volunteer for her. And so I call it my Sally scarf, and Kaz calls it my author.
Which is what I'm going to call it from now on then. Yeah, I think that is probably why I haven't seen it actually. Yes, yes.
Probably. I've got very, very long hair. Oh, Jason also wants to know if we can buy signed
yes,
books
Jason.
you.
I think send me, if you want to buy a signed book, just send me a message on Facebook or through my Facebook author page, or through my website. You can also contact me that way. So if anyone wants to buy a signed copy of any of my books, just send me a message and I will arrange that. Thank you, Jason. That's a lovely question.
We've got a question from Alison O'Leary that says, Sheila, I think I'm right in saying that writing isn't your only occupation. How do you balance the demands of...
Oh, hello, Alison, who's also, by the way, a really talented writer. If people haven't... Have you read her book? It's really good, really good.
I haven't yet. My reading list is
of course
strict on the order, so that I can keep up for the author chats and our interviews.
Well, it's Street Cat Blues. It's very good, and I will answer the question now. Basically, Alison, it's an absolute nightmare. Yes, you're right. I have several jobs. So I write my books. I also work 4 days a week for an organization doing kind of corporate writing and stuff like that. And I'm a tutor on the Writers Bureau. And I'm homeschooling one of my children because she hasn't been very well. Mm-hmm. So the juggling is constant. And normally I feel like I'm failing terribly in all of the journey. And really the only way I can do it is I have to be really disciplined, and I have to be really, really disciplined, because my latest contract with Canelo has been to produce a book every 6 months. So it's a really, really, really a lot. So the only way I can do that is I'm useless in the evenings. So I get up early, and my writing time is early in the morning. It also does mean I'm a kind of a bit of a rubbish wife and mother at the weekend. So basically over Christmas, I had a deadline for a book, not this one, but the one that's coming out after that. And my Christmas holidays were spent sitting in this little room writing while my family sort of went about their business without me. And I think long term, it's not sustainable to live like this. But at the moment, the only other option is not to write, and that's not something I can do. So I'm in a bit of a situation. I'm watching this. I have to hope that my books sell enough so I can give up the day job. That's the plan. But that has been the plan since I started writing about 14 years ago. So, but obviously it wasn't published 14 years ago. I started writing 14 years ago. And my first publisher actually said to me that you need to have 6 books out there doing well before you can start to think about doing this full time. And this is my 6th book. So I am really hoping that maybe I can start to step back on the day job a little bit. A long answer, sorry. Thank you.
Well, it's a fantastic book. Fine with long answers.
Good.
Ah, okay. Of all the characters you've written about, which is your fave and why? It's a good question. I'm not sure
Is it really...
My phone isn't uploading the names.
So I think that probably for lots of writers, this answer changes all the time. So I'm going to give you 2 characters. And one character is let me find the book for you. Okay, this book, which is my 2nd Ellen Kelly book called The Waiting Game. There's a character in that called Monica, and she is brilliantly vile. She's basically like just a hilariously... she's evil. She's really nasty. She's a kind of sociopath stroke psychopath. And I just absolutely loved writing her because I do really like writing nasty female characters because I think there's probably not enough of them in crime fiction. I loved writing Monica, and lots of people have got in touch with me to say, will she be coming back in further Ellen Kelly novels? So she might one day, who knows? And then completely differently, the book that I've just finished writing, which I can't tell you the title because the title is yet to be decided, which is a new departure for me. It's not a Dee Doran book and it's not an Ellen Kelly book. And at the very last minute, over the Christmas holidays, I wrote a character into that novel called Kostas, who lives in the island of Crete. And I just love him. And he's got quite a minor role in the book, but I love him and I love the story he has in the book that's coming out later this year. But I hope that in about 2 years' time, I'll have written another book and I'll have another favourite character in that again.
It's nice that you've got a baddie as a favourite character and somebody that sounds like
Kostas is lovely. He's lovely. Kostas is definitely a goodie. I kind of think this is true. I had a really terrible boss one time who was a woman, and I'm really convinced that when I write bad characters, it's kind of like a bad female character. It's like a form of therapy. I'm kind of writing her out of my system. I must say also, in Before You Were Gone, which you've just read, Sam, there's the mother in that, Ursula? Here we go. She's really nasty.
Oh, this woman.
I know, she's horrible. And again, I love writing.
You've got to love her.
I think there is something really liberating about writing a really horrible character because you can get them to think and say and do just stuff that you just would never think or say or do yourself. But it's kind of see what happens. And she's really awful, isn't she?
I think the thing with Ursula was she's so bad. But you know when people say in fiction there has to be a little bit of good in someone for it to be believable. Mm-hmm. You've proved that wrong with Ursula.
But the thing
absolutely blown that out of the water.
But the thing I like about Ursula, the same thing, well, no, maybe less about Monica. I think Monica's really knows that she's just downright nasty. But what I really like about Ursula is that she doesn't have any clue. She completely believes that everything she's doing is right and, for the good of others. And she's completely delusional that way. Whereas Monica was much more straightforward about the fact that everything she was doing was self-serving for herself. Ursula's managed to convince herself that she's doing it all for other people, whereas actually she's completely self-serving and selfish and horrible.
And you can literally see her walking around and talking to people.
No, exactly.
Knowing that she has no idea. She just thinks she's wonderful.
Exactly.
Everybody else's fault. Oh,
I'm sorry.
It drove me insane.
Good.
It's okay.
Good. I do like her. She was great fun to write.
It's just,
Well, I don't know if this is something about me, but writing bad characters it just comes very naturally. I think it must be some kind of release or something. I don't know. It's great fun. I really like writing bad characters. I can see.
We've got so many questions. So Kaz asked,
hi Kaz. So I've been living in Eastbourne since 2013, which ironically was the year that I moved to Eastbourne, the year that my very first novel, Shadows, came out. So that was kind of weird. We had just moved here at the same time as this book came out, which is all set in London, just as I moved away from London. So I've been living here since 2013, and I was talking to someone today actually about this, a colleague of mine who comes from Eastbourne. For me, and I think it's different for all crime writers, but for me, location is really, really important. And I do think that location, for me, it's such a part of the novel. It's almost like it's its own character. And when I interviewed Chris Whittaker before Christmas, I don't know if you remember, Sam, we spoke about this. He can only write his novels set in fictional places, and I can only write mine set in real places. I need to know the location. I need to feel it. I need to be able to describe it, and I need it to feel real for my readers as it feels for me. And also, I think particularly with Eastbourne, I really love living here. I love the town. I love the coast. I live literally on the edge of the South Downs National Park. It's absolutely beautiful. And I also love the fact that, people know Hastings and Brighton, but Eastbourne right in the middle of Brighton, and it's a little bit kind of forgotten in a nice way, because it means that it's remained very unspoiled, and it has this amazing countryside that's so kind of so few people know about. It's just incredible. It's beautiful. So that's why. Long answer again.
Spoiled by too many visitors.
I don't know if you saw, there was a TV series set in Eastbourne last year. Was it Truth and Lies? It was with I can't remember. It was about a 6-parter crime series, ITV crime series. Rubbish. I can't even remember the names. But they really got the location in that and made it really beautiful. And I could imagine if I hadn't known this area and I was watching that, I'd just be thinking, oh my God, where's that? It's so beautiful.
I never really watch anything that's
on TV. Do you not?
I record old episodes of Frasier and rewatch them. And I might.
Oh my God, I'm completely addicted to TV. I've just finished watching The Serpent, actually, which was amazing. And I bet loads of people watching this interview have watched The Serpent. It was incredible. Oh my God, you must watch it. It would be on BBC Catch Up.
The other one I watch is
I've never seen Castle.
That American thing. It's
really I might look out for that. So.
No, I'm terrible. People tell me about what they're watching.
Oh my goodness! Oh no, I'm a complete TV addict. Love it.
It's all this reading.
Sorry.
Keeping me awake at night. Slapped hands. Jason wants to know, will you ever write a series which has a male in the lead role?
I don't know, Jason. That's a really good question. I have written a novel. I've written 2 novels so far, sort of sitting in my drawer, awaiting more work, both featuring a male character in the lead, but they're definitely standalone novels. They're not series. So I don't know. I think if I look into my future, I could certainly see myself writing standalone novels featuring a male character, but I can't see at the moment that a series featuring a male character. So, for example, the book I've just finished was initially going to be a standalone novel, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it might be my next series, and that features 2 female detectives. So I don't know. We'll see. I think possibly not is the answer. Yeah.
I'll grill you about this off camera later, about these 2 new women. Hi, Joe. Joe Singleton wants to know, It says, I love your surname, Sheila. Is it a pen name or is there a story behind your name? Now, I called you Sheila Bugler for the first few months when we met. And then I realised, to my horror, that that wasn't the correct pronunciation and you're Sheila Bugler. This was before I'd actually
well, look,
to
be honest with you, you can call me either. It's absolutely fine. You know, like people call her all the time. And actually, once you keep the L in, it's probably safer than keeping the L out, which people do sometimes. First of all, it's not a pen name. No, it is my real name. Now, the story in our family is about this surname is that there is definitely a town in Dorset called Bugley, Bugley. And in Bugley, there are definitely a lot of Bugler families. So if anyone watching this is from Dorset, you can back me up on this. In Ireland, in County Clare, where my father comes from, in that little bit of Ireland, there is a big number of Bugler families, but there's nowhere else in Ireland will you find this, only in this one little area. And I've been told that the reason we call ourselves Bugler in Bugler was to distinguish us from the buglers who used to be in the army, literally playing the bugles years ago. And so that our family called ourselves Buglers to distinguish ourselves from the buglers who played the buglers who played the bugle. Anyway, so I think, so it's not a pen name. And there is actually a kind of romantic fiction writer called Suzanne Bugler. So I often get confused for her, really understandably get confused for her. But if I ever do meet a Bugler, we always do think that we are related. So actually, when I moved to Eastbourne, the local newspaper, the Eastbourne Herald, wrote a piece about me. And the next day, this woman got in touch with me and said, and she was living in Eastbourne and she had the same surname as me. And as it turned out, our fathers were first cousins. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When you're comparing names, so that's fascinating.
There you go. Sorry, I've answered your question already.
He also wants to know, this is Jay again, would you like to see any of your novels turned into a graphic novel? I'm sure Kaz has asked you this before.
No, Cass hasn't asked me this. I think other people have been asked this. Yeah, I think that'd be amazing, actually. So yes, Jason, I think it'd be amazing. I haven't read a lot of graphic novels, but I am a huge fan of the ones I have read. I think good graphic novels are amazing. So yeah, I think that'd be just super cool, and I would love it. So if anyone is watching this and you write graphic novels, I would love you to turn one of my books into a graphic novel. Or a TV series, that'd be great too.
This would be so good as a TV
Well,
series.
I'd love it. Obviously, so much more writing to write fiction.
Let's make a plan. Let's get in touch with Netflix or BBC. We'll do it. We'll go, when we can, we'll go and march outside. Louise Cullen wants to know, she says, hi Sheila, do you work out lots of details about character background? I wondered if Dee hadn't become a journalist.
Oh, hello. Hi, Louise. Louise is my lovely editor, actually. She's gorgeous. And she's amazing. So can you read the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Do you work out lots of details about character background? And she wonders if Dee hadn't become a journalist.
Right. So no, I don't work out lots of background. Not initially, Louise. The background, I do think the background is really important, and it's really important that writers know the background. And actually, there's an exercise that writers sometimes do, which is you have a big questionnaire, and you answer all of those questions as if you were answering as your character, like literally, what's your favorite food? What was the name of your best friend at school? What was your first pet? All of that stuff. I used to do that a lot at the beginning of my writing, but now I kind of do it automatically when I'm writing. So I just think about those things. But I don't do it beforehand. All of that stuff comes to me. The characters come to me as I write them. If Dee wasn't a journalist, I think she would either have been a criminal defense lawyer or I think that's what she would have been. Yeah, I don't think there's an or, a criminal defense lawyer. And if you ask me why I think that, that's just because I know Dee. I don't have any sort of logical other reason for saying that. I think she would have been a criminal defense lawyer or maybe a criminal defense barrister, and she would have been absolutely brilliant at it. And maybe I think that because I know a lot of criminal defense barristers, and I know that they're all kind of high living people like Dee is, so she'd fit in very well into that world, possibly.
I love that answer. I've never given it any thought as to what other authors' characters might have been. I like that. I like that a lot. Marion Todd says hi. She says she loves the Dee novels. What would your Desert Island book choice be? That's a good one.
I would say that my favourite book in the world is A River Runs Through It by Norma MacLean. It's just such a beautiful, amazing. Oh no, I get Shakespeare already, don't I? I think probably really actually would be an anthology of poetry, maybe, Marion. I do love poetry, and I think poetry would probably sustain me. I'd probably be okay. And actually, it'd be quite good to read. And see publish at every other aspect of living on a desert island. I'd need good books to keep me going.
Abby Frost has said that Dee's a brilliant character. What's the best reaction you've had to her or any of your characters?
Hi, Abby. There's also Chris Kern, brilliant well, by the way. For me, because Sam, I think I've lost. Each reaction to Dee was when I was submitting the books to find a publisher, and I had so many interest because plus the fact that loads of women might.
Sorry, at the moment I can't hear you.
Oh, I can hear you, but
you can hear me. And Kazzy's telling me the
same.
Okay,
I can hear you again now. There was a gap for a long time. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you again now. Yeah, I missed what you said about Abby Frost.
Okay, well, so Abby Frost and Chris Kern, same person, both write brilliant books. Well, she writes brilliant books under both names. The best reaction to Dee, I was saying, was I think the best reaction for me was when, with my agent, we started submitting the first book to publishers, and we had such interest from so many different publishers, and what they all liked about her specifically, I think, was the fact that she's a woman of a certain age, as am I, and also that I think they were very interested in having a crime series with somebody who wasn't a police detective as the main character. So that, and also just the fact that I think people have really genuinely warmed to Dee, and I'm really glad, because I really wanted to write a series with a female protagonist who was in her sort of late 40s, early 50s. You know, we've got the brilliant Anne Cleese series. Here is a rare breed amongst crime fiction protagonists. And I really I say a lot that Dee is an amalgamation of all the brilliant women I know, and she really is, you know, she's kind of all the best and all the flawed bits of all the women I love. So yeah, she's very dear to my heart, I must say. Thank you.
Joe wants to know, as a writing tutor, what would be your golden rule for new writing?
Okay, can you still hear me, Sam? Okay, great. So my golden rule for new writers, yes, I can, thank you. My golden rule, it's probably more than one golden rule. I think it would be, first of all, to learn the kind of tools of the trade. So you can have the best natural talent in the world as a writer, but you still need to understand technique. You need to understand the difference between show and tell. You need to understand viewpoint. There's just some stuff that you need to understand, because otherwise your writing is just not going to it's not going to sing the way it should. And also, I think once you've understood those basic writing techniques, I think the next thing is you need to set yourself a daily word count and keep to it. And the other thing that I think sort of you starting out writers aren't very good at is you need to listen to feedback and take it on board. If you give something to 10 people to read and 9 of them tell you that something doesn't work, there's a good chance those 9 people are right. So they're the 3 things I think that are really, really important. And Sam, you and I have spoken about this actually, but the importance of getting the technique right. It doesn't matter how brilliant your sort of talent is. But what I would say, that if you are a natural writer, you will get those techniques very quickly. And I see it a lot. I see writers who get it and writers who don't get it. I think it's like everything else. I think getting it is part of being a writer. You need to just get it. Yeah. I often think about, I'm probably going on too long here, but there's a writer called Helen Pfeiffer.
No.
Probably a part of the group, actually. And very early on, when she was starting out, I helped her write her first synopsis. And I remember, I'll never forget it with Helen King. She just got it. She got what she needed to do to get her synopsis as good as it could be. And I always remember thinking, she's going to get published. And she did. And she's doing brilliantly now. So there you go.
Earlier on, one of the questions, when you said Helen then, that's why it threw me before. The question that you answered was from Helen Blenkinsop.
Sorry.
So you just reminded me.
Hello.
Hi, Helen Blenkinsop. Louise said Ursula is a really great character.
Oh, thank you, Louise.
Ursula's had the pleasure of editing her. That must have been interesting. We'll have to get her on at some point and have a chat about it. Abby, Chris again, how have you found writing a standalone after 2 series?
I love it, but I have now. It's interesting because actually I'm just going to say this. So that book that I wrote at Christmas is with Louise at the moment. So she might well come back to me and say, "This is rubbish. It's not going anywhere," and that could happen because that happens to writers all the time. But I started out. I had it in my head that I wanted to write. In my head, I thought what I'd really like to do is I'd like to keep going with D, and then every few books write a standalone novel. So I absolutely set out to write this book as a standalone, but probably about halfway through, I just loved the 2 main characters in that book, and I sort of can already see them being a new series. So I think, Abby, I loved it, but I think maybe I'm not as good at writing standalones as I thought, and I sort of fall back into series maybe. I think the reason is that I find it very hard to let go of characters, I think. Sorry, Sam, what were you saying?
So I'm not going to complain.
I think you just, I think for all writers, there are some characters that are hard to let go of, I still think I'd love to go back to the Ellen books at some stage and write some more for them. I really love her, she is very different to me, Ellen. And actually, because one of the things with Ellen is her morals are very black and white. And so, for example, she really believed in the death penalty, which is something I absolutely don't believe in. But I used to get people writing to me saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're standing up for this and that." And I just found it really interesting that people just assumed that I held the same beliefs as the character I was writing. But her having that belief is completely right for who she is.
Yeah, that must be really strange about actors get that all the time as well, and writers, that people just assume anything that you write is somehow a part of you. Very, very strange. Francesca Riccardi, hi Francesca, says she thinks setting is such an important part of crime novels, and it is. It's like you said, it's like an extra character. It adds so much atmosphere.
Hi Francesca, I'm really glad you're here.
Quite a hard
Sorry?
thing to get right. Quite a hard thing to get right, though.
Well, I think it is a hard thing to get right, and I have I'm not going to name any names, but two very well-known writers wrote novels in places I have lived in. They're both very well established, and they both wrote a standalone novel. And both of those novels were based in places that I was living in at the time, and they got the location so shockingly wrong. It really kind of ruined the book for me. So I think you either go with a completely fictional location, or you make sure you get your relocation right.
Yeah, that would be frustrating. I think a lot of writers say that people get in touch with them and say, "Oh, you couldn't turn left there where you turned left." But that seems to be the biggest
thing I
think
you
get wrong.
You have to, you always have to
like
live with a poetic license, don't you? Really, you know.
Yeah, gotta have.
But then when sorry, go on. Question, yeah. Oh no, I was just going to say my Ellen Kelly series is set in Lewisham in southeast London, but there's an area of Lewisham called Lee, which is it's very affluent and leafy. And I described it in one of my books as affluent. Somebody challenged me on it. Somebody got in touch with me to say, I don't think so. But this person obviously didn't know Lee, because it really is lovely and leafy and affluent.
I'm not sure which book Louise is talking about now, because this is probably from a few minutes ago. It was Flesh and Blood, and it was great.
She's talking about the ITV series that I was talking about. It was called Flesh and Blood, and it was quite spooky because they lived. The house that they lived in, this family, was on the exact same stretch of beach where Dee lives in. And I kind of felt aggrieved that they had chosen my location and my setting, and got there before I did. It wasn't fair. No, thank you.
That's not fair.
Good.
But seeing as I haven't seen that, theirs doesn't exist, so we're fine. Absolutely fine. Jason wants to know, have you got any hobbies? And he's also asking, who has the
okay, so hobbies. I'll do hobbies first. Okay. I love walking. I live in a beautiful that's like made a huge thing for me, Jason, and with my whole family we love walking, and we're lucky to live somewhere that's beautiful and we can get out for big walks even during lockdown because there's nobody around. I do love reading, love TV, Sam, unlike you. Love cooking, love eating way too much, love drinking wine way too much, and so that's hobbies. I think they're my main ones. Oh, I do like running. I started running about 1.5 years ago, and really love running. Actually, I'm absolutely like beyond useless at running, but I still do it. I really like it. And on word count, there's kind of a standard word count, which is between 80 and 100,000 words, and that's kind of what you stick to. For me, I always veer towards the higher end of that. So my novels always come in around between sort of 90 and 100,000 words. But that's kind of it. I think you'd be running into problems if you were going up to 110, 120 for the type that I write. And that just feels very comfortable for me. I never go way under and I never go way over. I think you just kind of learn how to make sure that your word count's about right.
A lot out, or even worse, adding things in, because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I think it's different for different writers. So normally, well, when I started writing, I've got more disciplined in my approach to writing now, but when I wrote my Ellen books, I always had to cut down the number of words at the end. But what I find now with the D books is that I normally, when I'm in the process of writing the final draft, I normally end up adding about 10,000 words. So that's quite a different process for me. That's because I plan a little bit better now than I did at the beginning.
We have got, again, I thought, oh, we're coming to the end of the questions. I might get some of mine in. No. So Louise said she's only as good as the book she works on. I think that's a compliment. Because you were saying what a great editor she is. Francesca said Louise is gorgeous.
And so is Francesca, by the way.
And Louise is saying, oh, stop. Brian Caves wants to say thank you. Do we know what Brian, the
I can
lovely
see it.
Brian,
And actually, I'm
behind
Brian,
my
so
hat?
glad Brian is here, because Brian has sent me a message. So can I just quickly say, Brian, yes, and I will reply to your message separately.
Ooh.
And he's saying thank you because Brian posted a while ago about having problems writing a synopsis. So I've just, we've been messaging each other a little bit about that.
Okay.
But I've just been really busy today and haven't had a chance to reply to his message. Say that again?
I can't think of anyone better to ask.
I quite like writing synopses and don't mind them as much as loads of writers. They're kind of dreaded, you know, they're given a sort of almost mythical status of horror and dread.
Yeah, I don't look forward to ever having to do that. But luckily, I have a fabulous writing tutor who's going to.
I will help you through that, exactly.
Things when I get there. Marion Todd said, "Good answer, Sheila's poetry too." TG says, "Good evening."
Hello.
Hiya, T. Gorgeous T. Rebecca Mayo, hello from Columbia, South Carolina, USA.
I want to go to South Carolina. Rebecca. You are really on my list of destinations. Yes, do Rebecca, put in the chat. I absolutely love America, and I think it's such a beautiful country. And this is one of the things we spoke with Chris Whitaker about, wasn't it? About how he has done such a great job of sort of capturing the sense of America in his novels.
Funnily enough, A Long Way From Home Behind My Head, that's set in
That's right, I know. Georgia. Yeah.
I forgot for a second. It's a brilliant book. Jason says, "Do you write in silence?"
I am obsessed with having music in the background, Jason. And interestingly, I can't. Oh, no. I can't do my day job with music, but I am literally plugged into Spotify when I write, and I do get musical passions. So if anyone looks at my Twitter feed, you'll see it says that I'm a Johnny Cash fanatic. I go through big phases of listening to like Leonard Cohen, Nick Cave, who I both love. And then just before Christmas, somebody recommended a documentary to me called Searching for Sugar Man, which is about a singer called Rodriguez. And it is the most amazing documentary. And I literally fell in love with his music and his voice. So basically, the last novel I've written has been written to the voice of Rodriguez singing in my ears on repeat.
Wow.
Oh.
I really didn't expect that. I love it when I'm surprised. Louise, this is mean. Sorry to brag about being a lucky early reader, but Sheila's new book is so great. She's so talented. And we're waiting. Louise, hurry up. Get your editing pen out.
Oh, that's very sweet, Louise. Thank you.
I want to read it. Rebecca Mayo again says, "It's great to be able to have a believable character that has a different position than the one you hold." So it is, because surely if every character had the same beliefs as you wouldn't get very far, would you? Because they'd all be the same.
Yeah, I think I think it would be very hard to write a series with a main character that you didn't like as an author. So with Ellen, for example, she does hold some beliefs that are different to me, but because I really know where she's come from and get her, I know that even though her beliefs are different to mine, they're coming from a place of well-meaning, and basically her big thing is her family, and she will do anything to protect them and look after them, and she is so brilliantly just black and white in terms of what she thinks is right and wrong, whereas I'm the complete different. I think I think, like probably most writers, I'm very aware of the gray areas between right and wrong.
Yeah, I think you have to be. I think, and I don't know, I think as you grow, your opinions change anyway. I know I always used to think I was flaky, but actually I think just as you become more educated on something, your opinion might
what do you mean flaky?
Slightly. But I used to think I just changed my mind all the time about things. But then I realised, I think as I realised that I was just becoming more educated about what I was looking into. So yeah, I used to think I was a
Good,
bit
but I bet you were
flighty,
never
I'm a bit more
flighty. You
rounded,
probably
but
just, change your mind based on what you'd learned and heard and new things.
probably. Let's hope so. Marion Todd says, crime writing can be dark. Are there any subjects you wouldn't tackle?
I know.
I
So
always
I
like
think
this question.
there probably aren't any subjects I wouldn't tackle, Marion. But as you know, being a brilliant crime writer yourself, I think so for me, there's nothing I wouldn't tackle. I do have a particular thing about graphic sexual violence. It's just something I wouldn't ever write, and I think something that doesn't sit very comfortably with me when I read it either. But that's a very, very subjective thing. That's me. And I'm just not somebody, I think, generally who would be able to write really. Okay, first of all, I'm incredibly squeamish. So I'd find it really hard to write something really like violent or gritty or I'm really squeamish, so I couldn't do that. But in terms of topics, I can't think there's anything I wouldn't write about. But how I write it, I think I certainly there are things I wouldn't write graphically about, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Sam?
It does make sense. Yeah, it does make sense. I think I've got a bit of a reputation as being averse to gore. I don't know where it came from, but I do think at some point in an interview I have said, "Oh, yes, well, but maybe I'm getting a bit better at it now."
God, I faint. I
but I don't like graphic. Yeah, the graphic sexual violence that you've described, I don't like that. That I wouldn't.
So I fainted watching the film Marathon years ago, and I also fainted watching Reservoir Dogs in the cinema. So since those two experiences, I've had to kind of just keep myself away from violent scenes.
Wow. Now, I haven't watched Reservoir Dogs for a long time.
Did you know?
I did go through a phase of watching it a lot, and I don't think
God, so you're tough.
That I can remember. I'm more.
Yeah, you can do the gritty stuff. I can't.
I am. I'm very, very tough. I'm not like a marshmallow. Would you like to write in any of the genres, Jason wants to know?
I have dabbled with short stories, Jason, and I think if I had all the time in the world, I would like to try again with short stories, which, as lots of people will know, is an incredibly difficult form to write. I think all writers would say that short story writing is like an art that's harder to master than novel writing. I would like to write short stories. Interestingly, I have no interest in writing crime short stories, and I have no interest in writing novels that aren't crime. For novels, only crime, and for short stories, I think only not crime. Don't ask me why. I have no idea.
Watch it now. You'll sit wide up awake.
Maybe I might do. I don't know. I just think writing it. I don't know. I not for me. No, but no reason for that other than it's just not me.
Fair enough. Oh dear. Brian said he's going to have to sign off, sadly. Voices keep coming and going. Screens are freezing. Weird noises in the background. Now let's hope that Brian's got a poltergeist and it's not everybody. A non-harmful poltergeist. Sorry, Brian. Should really think before I speak.
That lovely lady.
An interesting message.
Sorry, go on.
Marion Todd said,
yes.
She said synopsis writing is a dark art.
Actually, I don't think it is. I'm going to take that back. I don't think it is a dark art. I think that, and I love Marion, so I hope she won't mind me disagreeing with her. I genuinely don't think it's a dark art. I think that writers have built ourselves up to think it's a dark art. And what I always say to writers who are struggling with synopsis is, I think we find it so difficult because you have to condense your 100,000 word novel into a single page. But if you start by thinking that's not what you're doing, all you're doing in your single page is giving agents and publishers a flavor of your novel. That's what you're doing. And I think if you start it like that, you will get to your end point of your synopsis much more. And I would say, and this is what I said to Brian actually, that the starting point of your synopsis, a really good place to start is just writing a bit of a longer blurb. And the blurb is the bit that goes here in the back. And if you just kind of make that a bit longer, you're well on your way to a good synopsis.
When Brian posted that in the book.
I know.
I don't know who this is from, but somebody has asked, do you ever base characters on people that you know? And if so, do they recognise themselves? Now, I know you've told me that Dee, for example, is an amalgamation, good and bad, of lots and lots of women in your life. And you also said that you have an old boss in mind when you're writing as well. Is there anyone who's literally been lifted from your life and dropped in?
But interestingly, what has really taken me aback is that people often think they are. So I found out recently, for example, that a really good friend of mine who's called Graham, I have a character in my second Dee novel called Graham, and it's so blindingly obvious to me that the Graham in my book is nothing like the Graham I know in real life, that there's no. But Graham's wife told me recently that he was convinced that he was the Graham in my book. Which I just, and often friends, I think my friends do try to find themselves or, you know, people they know in my books, but they're not there, they won't find them.
Somebody else has written, do you set aside?
I try to, yes, and for me, I'm a morning person, so and that's for me. I try to set aside. I write in an ideal world. If I could be up at 5 in the morning and write from 5 till 8, and that's my best writing time. So before all of our worlds changed forever, I used to commute into London 2 mornings a week, and that was just the best writing time. I just sit in the train and write, and even now, you know, here at home. Oh no, it's fine, because you could just like shut off the world and just write. And actually, I think that thing about, you know, I'd like to write with music. I didn't have music when I was on the train, but I think a bit of background noise, I really like it actually. I just find, I don't know why, I think I'd find it really hard to write in complete silence actually. Yeah. But then when I do my day job, I can't have music on. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what that's about. It's different parts of my brain working, isn't it? I think so. Yeah.
I think everybody that I ask is going to have a different answer to this one.
I think they will, absolutely. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to steal Jason's favourite question. Sorry, Jay. Not sorry. Lorraine Mace, hello Lorraine.
Oh, hello.
Says, just keep writing, Sheila. I love your books.
She is lovely, isn't she? And her book is out tomorrow. Yeah, and it's absolutely brilliant because I've read an advanced review copy of it. It's amazing.
And she also says you are a star writer.
Thank you, Lo.
I didn't realise it was tomorrow, but we have she's going to post,
and she's doing an online launch. So yeah,
keep an eye out. Online launch as well. You're all so busy. So what kind of things do you do other than, obviously you spend a lot of time talking to our members here, not just because you're an author, just because we like a chat. So what other things do you do?
Not half enough is the honest answer. And that goes back to the just being too busy with all the other stuff. I'm not one of these writers who doesn't like self-promotion. I love, you know, doing events like, I love doing events like this and stuff. But I just don't have the time. I see a lot of my writer friends and they're so brilliant at it. They're just brilliant at it. And I really admire them for being brilliant at it. But I have just accepted that I am just too busy to be as good at it as I'd like to be. So my way of promoting myself, now I am very active on social media, but I don't think it works for writers to kind of constantly promote ourselves on social media anyway. And I kind of rambling a bit now. I like to be active in social media because I think I like to get to know other writers and other book bloggers, and I like to see what other people are doing. I don't think me going out onto Twitter every day and saying, here's the book that I'm writing is very effective. I just don't think that's effective. I think you promote yourself through building up networks and being supportive of other writers and other people who are other aspiring writers. I'm trying to think what I would do if I had more time, because that's the thing, isn't it? So, for example, I'm not doing an online launch for this book, which is something I should be doing, but I just haven't had the time to think about it. Well, I suppose maybe. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't do enough of getting myself out to festivals and events and stuff. Now, obviously, that hasn't happened much in the last year, and I don't do half enough of getting myself out to just reaching out properly to readers, but also building networks, sort of going to all the writer events that happen for writers. I don't do enough of that. But I'm also somebody who's really at peace with myself. So I came to writing quite late in life. And when I started writing, I realized really early on when I started writing that this is the thing I was put on this earth to do. And that sounds really, really just pretentious. Oh, thank you. I think it does sound really pretentious, but I have literally done every single job under the sun. Like, I have done everything. And when I started writing, I realized that the thing I was looking for in all those other jobs, this was it. So actually, for me, I'm really happy that I'm writing books and they're getting published and people are reading them. And I think actually all the rest of the stuff around what we do as writers is kind of noise. I don't have lots of time to promote myself. That's okay. That's fine, because actually I'm writing my books to getting published. And there is something amazing about doing what you love doing. And there is something as a writer just perfect about, like, when I meet someone like you, Sam, and you say that you have read a book and you love it, like, there you go. That's it. That is what I'm doing with my life, and that makes me very happy. That's it right there. There's nothing else. So to be wanting more than that is just nonsense. Obviously, I would love to be making enough money so that I didn't have to do the day job as well. But that's fine if I have to do it. It's fine. Because what's not fine is if I can't write, and if I can't write for people like you who like to read my books. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's about. And that's the really, really important thing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Always passes so quickly. And next time, Kaz will be...
I know.
Yeah, Kaz will be cheering, because next time Kaz gets to interview you, because I had to agree to share.
Well, I would love that. I love watching Kaz's interviews, actually, because she's so massively well read, isn't she?
Yeah. Oh, my word, yes. Yes, she is.
And also, you know that I'm hosting the Celtic panel later this year, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I do. So that is
August.
That the one in
August.
Is that the 3rd of May?
Yeah, so it's probably too far away.
The August one, right. See, I need to have these things written down. Yeah, it's quite far away in my teeny tiny memory bank.
Don't worry, it's probably way too early, so I'll just zip it, pretend I didn't say that, everyone.
Give us one final recap of Before You Were Gone and the publication dates and the cover. And
okay, so this is the book. It's called Before You Were Gone. It's the third in my Dee Doran series, and I do love this book, I must say. It's about a girl called, so Dee is the journalist still. She is contacted by a long lost relative whose sister died when she was little, but this character Emer is starting to believe, for different reasons, that her sister might not have died and is still alive. And the inspiration for this book it's been an idea with me since the very beginning of when I started writing crime fiction. So I'm really glad I've had a chance to write the book. It's out on the 28th of January, published by Camelot Crime. And that's it. I think there's nothing else to say, is there? There's the cover again. And thank you so much, Sam and UK Crime Book Club. Thank you.
Thank you so much.